can't even talk about the fact that I almost got arrested. You can't ask nicely for your liberation. You can't just be like, please, please.
Right. You can't ask for your liberation.
Yes.
You must obtain it.
Yes.
Yourself, and if that's by force, it's by force.
Watermelon Pictures. When's the Hadid reality show coming?
That, I don't think we're ever getting a Hadid reality show.
See, I would watch that.
Maybe a BTS of Watermelon Pictures production.
I mean, that would be fun.
Oh, there's a question here. I don't know who wrote it. Is Bella single?
Asking for a friend.
For a friend, you know.
Bella who?
No.
Anybody else?
What is
Horrible and disgusting. Okay. I love when you play dumb.
Wait, what do you mean? Wait.
Toxic masculinity.
Come on.
Something that I say often is boycott divestation, but also invest. Invest in Palestinians. Invest in what a free Palestinian is going to look like. And that means Palestinian success.
Yes, yeah.
Representation is also about showing people what the possibility is for Palestinians. And that's like, you guys having this podcast. It's about, like, as a Palestinian making a speech in front of 400,000 people. It's about having a business as a woman, as a Palestinian woman having a business that's successful.
Yes.
Those are the types of things that allow people to see hope and a future.
Habibi House.
Breaking news. The facade tried to sabotage our audio to not let this episode happen. But the Habibi House persevered anyway.
Welcome back to the Habibi House podcast, the Arab American podcast. And I know we say we have a special guest, but today we got a really special guest.
In fact, we have a one-of-a-kind guest today. And she has been kind enough to grace us with her presence. Her aura is felt in the studio, and it's because she derives from a long lineage of royalty, Palestinian royalty.
Oh, yeah.
She's from an amazing family that we love, we all know. Alana
Hadid.
Welcome to the All right. And quick words from our sponsors. We're sponsored. This episode is sponsored by Palestinian Hustle. Dad-daughter duo out of Tampa, Florida.
Palestinian Hustle also is basically the like our personality, I think. Right?
Yeah, literally Palestinian Arab Hustle.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into their story later on in the episode.
Yeah, well, thank you, Palestinian Hustle, for the fits. We're all outfitted by them, so.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny you gave me the shirt.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this out and about.
Yeah.
I know you told me.
That was tailor made for you, man.
I thought when I saw it, the record.
Would you like some shirts?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I think we got a care package.
Just roll boxes.
Unboxing.
Are you familiar with the brand?
I've heard of it. I've heard some good things, so I can't wait to rock it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Alana Hadid. Hadid means
Iron.
iron.
Yeah.
So is your family like in the iron business back in the day or what? No, this is a legitimate question.
I would imagine that at some point, yes, that's usually where last names are derived from.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's just like our aura. We're, strong, like iron.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you guys known for anything in Palestine or like
Big badass.
badass?
So our family lineage, the kind of royal lineage is from the Daher family, which is my grandmother's side of the family. They're based in Nazareth. So if you say Daher to anyone from kind of that area, they know.
Daher.
Yeah.
Or is that Daher?
No, Daher. But I was saying it like the American way.
Like I'm a daher, like I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
I'm out of this.
That's how they say it. Love you.
Yeah.
I'm definitely familiar with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really
her
cool.
dad's mother.
My dad's mother's, family. So Daher al-Omar was like kind of the ruler of that area. He helped build the port of Haifa. He helped with trade routes. He was actually one of the first rulers and like the only ruler who built mosques, synagogues, and churches all next to each other. He wanted to be like a multicultural and religious hub and make that in Palestine. So,
And that's
What year was that? Like, what?
yeah, and that was like how Palestine was
1700s.
1700. And that's like how Palestine was before World War II, right?
yeah,
It's like whole different world. But
Like that's what we've said. Like I've said this before. Like everyone's like two-state solution. I'm like, we had the answer pre 1948. It was a one-state solution where everyone was living together in relative harmony. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's so ridiculous to most Palestinians when people say that the idea of a one state means that we're trying to kick everyone out.
Yes.
Our one state was everyone.
Again, it's
exactly.
Before you.
It's like hold up a mirror. You're accusing us of something that you literally did.
100%. Yeah. A lot of projection.
They're afraid of the stuff that they're doing to
Well, yeah.
people.
I mean, which is also like speaks to genocidal intent.
Right.
You know, that's a whole other story.
And a lot of internalization, we don't have to get into this one, but a lot of internalization happened of the racism and hatred that they experience, that then they've internalized to hate parts of themselves that they then project.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's actually the saddest part for a lot of people is, you know, when you've experienced that, how is it possible for you to then go and do it to another set of people, especially the people who took you in?
Right.
You know, you see the beautiful, you know, black and white photos of Jewish refugees coming to Palestine. And it literally says like, America wouldn't have us, Europe wouldn't have us, like Palestine, you're our last and only hope.
Yeah.
It's
Like, hello? What?
Policy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my family took in 2 Polish families, yeah.
was that a mistake?
No. I guarantee you if my Jiddo was here still today, he would have said he would take them in all over again, even if he had to go through it, because you know, that is our nature.
Yeah.
We are giving. Like, you meet a Palestinian or an Arab on the street, you tell them that you're hungry or that you're, you know, that you don't have clothes or you don't even tell them those things. And they're going to try to feed you. They're going to give you the shirt off their back. That is just like our mentality.
They're
And
doing it
so,
when things are good and when it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing it now in the worst of the worst, and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
They're still generous, still giving literally their food out of their own mouths to the kids and all that.
I mean, you see it with there are still, you know, aid organizations who are helping animals in Gaza. Like, they're literally taking the food out of their mouths and giving it to cats and dogs and horses. And like, this is just like our spirit. And it's sad because, you know, the way that it's been, like, our spirit has been like perverted, like the way that it's been turned on us. And it's ironic because that is exactly the kind of perversion that happened to Jewish people before and during and after the Holocaust, is this idea that they were terrorists, that they were horrible, that they were bad, that, you know, all these things that, exactly. And that was what helped, you know, create this like hatred and the Holocaust and all of these things. And so the fact that people can't see that it's being done now to Palestinians and to Arabs.
We're feeling, I mean, we feel like we're in 1930s Germany right now. And I saw a comment on one of the social media platforms. They were saying that the American colonial project is complete, right? It's been done. We did what we did to the Native Americans, and we can never repay that. But the colonial project is still ongoing in occupied Palestine.
Well, there's something to be said about how the American colonial project has affected the Middle East, because you know, Israel is an expansionist settler colonial project. And we can see that in the fact that Israel doesn't have defined borders. They've never defined their borders. I mean, you know, you see IDF soldiers with that badge on it that has, you know, the greater Holy Land of Israel, and it includes Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, you know, Jordan.
Parts of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, exactly. So
their colonialism knows no meets or ends.
And colonialism also now includes imperialism. And
What is that?
and sorry?
What's imperialism?
Like modern.
It's the idea of going into other countries and kind of and reaping the benefits of their, you know, their resources. It ties into capitalism. So like the imperial project of the United States has taken over the Middle East as well. Obviously, we've gone in and committed war atrocities all over the Middle East. But also we have been involved in proxy wars in Africa and all of these different places.
Destabilized.
So our colonial project is now about destabilizing the rest of the world in order to continue to keep us at like a higher level. And so that's where we can't say truly that the colonial project of the United States has ended, because yes, I mean, we've put, Native Americans and indigenous people into reservations, and we've kind of that problem.
Same like concentration camps.
I mean, listen, if you look at the way the map was of indigenous people in the United States, the way that it's shrunken down looks very similar to what you see how Palestine is shrunken down and Palestinian populations in Israel.
Those reparations are like, they're not enough, of course.
I mean,
but at least Native Americans have some semblance of sovereignty. Like if we compare that to Palestinians, obviously it's nowhere. It's very a lot similar in the.
I mean, they would say they're not militarily occupied, but they don't have. They don't have. Yes, they have their own, kind of set of laws. But in doing that, they are outside of like the natural, the norm of what's happening in the rest of the United States, and they should have access to those type of like rules and sovereignty, no matter where they go.
And they're not military occupied, but they're virtually wiped out. Like, I forget the real number. Over 300, like since America was the inception of America, or North America, over 100 million Native Americans. Like it's an unfathomable number.
It's
what
ridiculous.
I mean? So they might not be occupied now, but they've had there for centuries, basically.
I always find it funny when Zionists use that as like a talking point back to the
America's stolen land.
They always say like, well, then you're living on stolen land, and I'm like, well, it's funny that you're saying that, because then you're admitting that what you're doing is wrong.
No, I know.
They try to use that as like, well, America did it, so we can do it. No.
And yes, I live on land that I shouldn't necessarily live on. But again, my father was ethnically cleansed from his country. We don't want to do that to another people. I don't believe that. This might be like I don't believe America deserves to exist. I don't believe that Israel deserves it. I truly don't believe in nation states themselves at all. So no, I don't think that's, I believe in like tribalism and the way that like people used to be able to live without borders and walls and passports. Like we all used to help each other and live wherever we wanted to. And like that, the most beautiful nations are the ones that are created by people and not by governments or border lines.
Systems.
Yes.
The current concept of this nation state is a Eurocentric.
Exactly. It's Western.
I do want to really briefly touch back on like your family story, because I know what you mentioned, it's really important, is that we don't change our nature. You said your grandfather would do it all over again, still welcome those families. And that's really important for us to be ourselves and not become life our oppressors, because unfortunately that's what they did, right? They internalized that hatred.
A lot of people say that. I mean, I've heard people say, they're like, well, if Palestine was in the same position, they would be doing the same thing. I'm like,
they were in the same position and they weren't doing it.
Right.
That's the thing, though. We were put in the same position in a lot of ways. We could have said no. I mean, and a lot of people, Palestinians, did kind of see it coming, and there were uprisings because they were like, hey, you guys have been here and we were all cool, but like, we're not going to let you like take everything.
We're sensing agenda.
But no, it's like you have the Palestinian Jews and the Arabs and Christians all living in harmony. And then you had the fringe like Zionist terrorist groups.
Well, they were being implanted in Palestine.
People that were allowed in.
There was that. Yeah, go ahead. No, I was just saying, like, and they are the ones that terrorized the British. They killed British soldiers. I mean, they made it uninhabitable for the British, so that their project was like they did what they did from 1916 to 1948, and they were like, you know what, we're over this, basically, and then they dipped.
100%.
And then
so. The first act of modern Middle Eastern terrorism was
The King David.
the King David Hotel, and that was done by militant Zionist groups. You know, yeah, it was the Irgun. Which
I mean, they're still alive to this
became
day.
the idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait, look, who did they kill?
So what they were trying to do was basically blow up the offices of the British military, because they also wanted to get rid of the British within colonial Palestine, and they wanted to take over, but they had to get rid of the British first, because the British were actually kind of collaborating with Palestinians in order to try to make this like whatever they ended. I mean, it was going to be a colony. It was a colony.
They were fake helping.
Yeah.
Fake but they were too much for
Yes.
interests.
So their idea was to blow up the offices of the British and then pin it on Palestinians. And so they did blow it up, but eventually, obviously the British figured out
And they
what it
tried
was.
that over the whole area, like in Egypt.
Yeah.
They did the Laban affair. They did they've done it they're in Iraq and the Baghdad bombings and stuff. So they literally terrorized their own people to incentivize them to come into,
Well, Zionists love doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen
They kill their own
examples of it
people.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also like just on college campuses, at synagogues, you've found a lot of instances of Zionist, writing things on synagogues or posting things and pretending
They're
like
false
it-
flags. That's what they are.
Yeah.
False flag.
Totally. Sorry, I think we got away from this.
No, it was-
My family.
I was just gonna say there was a Atif, you asked her, I think, did they regret it? And you said no, you do it all over again because this is our nature.
Yeah.
There was a backlash to that decision, right? Can you tell with the viewers that don't know?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the family who moved into the back house of my grandparents' house, and had been living with them for over a year. The Polish family, yes.
Not that it matters.
No, but no, it doesn't matter. But they're not Palestinians.
Right.
Well, it does. I like the connection of Poland and Palestine. There is a parallel, but we'll get into that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I just have seen comments where people are like, Polish people be like, we don't like support those people that did stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Of course.
That's it. That's
But
why.
even then, like
All Polish, all Jewish people are not like that. I mean, I have so many anti-Zionist Jewish friends. I don't have Zionist Jewish friends, but that's very different than Judaism. So,
Right.
they along with the Irgun and Haganah, which were two militant groups, Irgun was considered a terrorist group by not only Jewish people, but the British and all over the world. And they later were absorbed into what became the IDF.
Yeah. Does that make the idea by extension?
A terrorist group. I've said it a million times. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. When we say that, we're not just like saying it.
Yeah.
They literally were started as a but yeah, they took over my grandfather was a professor. He was a interpreter, and he was at work. And when he came back, they were in the front house, and there were militant groups outside with guns, and they were like, "You can't go back in." I think they put a few of his things outside, and he and at the time my two aunts, the two eldest, were with him. They had to leave, and so they left. My Teta had been, giving birth to my dad in Nazareth, which is very traditional to go back to your family home to have your children. She took my other aunt, who was, the youngest at the time, the youngest girl, and so when they came back, obviously he was gone, and so they went to a separate refugee camp.
Yeah.
I used to think that it was a friend of theirs that, but of course my dad, being my dad, who's amazing, he was like, "That's incorrect." It was actually my uncle who was a doctor, and he traveled from refugee camp to refugee camp, and he ended up reuniting my grandparents. But it took almost a year.
Yeah.
So they were, refugees separated for almost a year before they were reunited, and then they went to.
Wait, before you.
Yeah.
So your dad though was giving birth to your dad.
She. I think we can't exactly remember.
Were they separated? Like she was separated from her husband and her kids.
Yeah. So she had one of her daughters.
Yeah.
She took the youngest, and then she had my dad. And I think we always say like around 9 days. I'm not 100% sure. My dad obviously can't remember. And a lot of my aunts have passed away.
Yeah.
And both my grandparents are obviously gone. So somewhere in the range of, 2 weeks, 9 days, 10 days. And this is very indicative of what's happening to women in Gaza now, where they're giving birth and then they're having to evacuate like right afterwards. And obviously you're all men, but, and I've never had a child, but I know how painful childbirth can be. Like people can hardly walk afterwards, like for a long time.
Yeah.
So for you to become a refugee where you're having to like,
I mean, they're literally holding them at gunpoint, and they're saying,
and they're literally having to walk.
And I'm like, they're asking, can I just bring my like just born child? And they're like, no.
Yeah. So things like that. Yeah. So, yeah. And then she was alone with her, with her newborn and her youngest child for almost a year. But that it's the sad strength of Palestinians. Like everyone talks about how strong we are, but we shouldn't have to be that strong.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me, a little bit, the bravery that we have to have, the strength that we have
So you
to
expect it almost like, oh, you guys are strong. You go through all this for all these years and have a smile on your face at the end of the day and keep fighting.
Yeah.
It's very resilient.
And this is not, unfortunately, unique to your family.
No, that's the thing. It's not unique at all.
Right.
Yeah, because I remember in our video, people were like, my family's from Suffolk too, and this happened, and I like...
But it's an example, it's such a visceral example, and I think it exacerbates it by the success of your current family and your father. Mm-hmm. But to me also, this was the royal Teta that got put up through all this. Mm-hmm. So, let alone all the, I don't want to say common, but everyone else went through the same thing.
Oh, everyone.
Had the highest in success and the lowest.
It didn't matter where you stood on the and of course, again, the nation states were not really had just become a thing. Right. Like the socioeconomic, there wasn't really stature that way. It didn't really work that way. Everyone, lived with everyone, communed with everyone, did everything together. So yeah, of course they were going to treat someone who had royal blood and someone who didn't exactly the same. Yeah. They were going to kick everyone out. Right. But I think it is important to say that, and it's my father again pointed out something really important to me the other day, and I hadn't really thought about it. He said, when people say 750,000, first of all, we don't really know the real number. There's not a way to know, but also census numbers never included children. So those were adults. Yeah, wow. And he's like, many of these children were born just like now in Gaza, they're being born and there's not a record of them. Yeah. So, my father wouldn't have been, was 9 days. I think maybe he was born in a house, so there was probably a lot more than 750,000 people who were ethnically cleansed, because you're not including necessarily children. Of course, eventually when they're in refugee camps, they're accounted for and recorded. But I think I would imagine it's a lot more.
I did not know that. That's
interesting.
Even now with the death toll in Gaza, it's...
Yeah, there's no way of knowing. These are just the people who've been recorded.
Right.
And then they stop recording them?
I feel like it's been at the same number.
That's what I'm saying.
They'll say 500 more people died, 1,000 more people died, and the number isn't changing.
Well, you also have to take into consideration, these are the people that they can recognize, find, and because obviously they're constantly being maligned in their numbers. So they have to be able to say, this person, first and last name and age.
Right.
If you can't recognize them, if they're under the rubble and you haven't seen them for a week, they can't report it. So just like I think any other agency, a lot of other agencies have said, there's the number is like quadruple that probably.
Yeah.
But these are the amount of people that we can actually say, you know, this person name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the refugees, like going back to that 750,000 original or a million or however much the real number was, it affected people in different ways because some people ended up being displaced as part of that million, and others stayed and lived under occupation. But one is not better than the other.
No.
And both of those, in their own way, in their own, have their own difficulties and challenges.
Everyone suffered.
Yeah.
You know, you stayed or you left, and I think it's also kind of important to say that like all the people, and this is why we value that symbolism of the key, you know, everyone thought they were going to be able to go home.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't anticipate that if you leave, like if tomorrow someone says like there's fighting next to my house and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get out. Or if there's, you know, someone holds me at gunpoint and tells me I need to leave my house. There's a part of me, of course, that's going to think, yeah, of course I'm going to get to go back to my house. Even if I need to leave and go to a friend's house or I need to go to another state. Yeah, I'm going to get to go home at some point.
And just escape this imminent threat.
Yes.
Is that what's happening in Gaza right now?
Well,
That like people think they're coming back and they're not going to let them?
well, I mean,
We hope not.
we hope not, but like also we have this,
Historically, it's
we have this trauma embedded in us, and this is you know, the thought of like generational trauma. It's like I have this trauma when I see what's happening. You also have to consider like these people in Gaza, they're funding to be ethnically cleansed. Like they're asking people to pay so that they can leave because they have to. Because right now it's like
Right, and then that's a whole nother conversation about the price that it takes. The people that are charging, it really be your own people.
Then it's funny how people also started to talk and post these GoFundMe's and say, hey, we want to fund them leaving. And I'm like, but like...
Well, they need to go.
They need to go right now, for sure.
It's the idea of escaping imminent danger.
Yeah.
So that you can then, with the expectation of I'll be able to return, whether or not they will be shot.
And then they're charging like $10,000 at the
Yes.
border, and people are getting rich off of people's tragedies. And
So every single part of this is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of a shout out to Egypt.
Yeah.
diss track, I don't know.
I mean, and what's sad is like, this is a very large example of the people don't represent the government, because like you see what beautiful things Egyptian people are doing for Palestinians that are in Egypt. You see what everything. You saw them like, you know, sneaking them food through the walls.
Yeah.
The guy through the oranges, like all these amazing things that are happening, and Egyptians who are doing.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, one kind of, I don't even know if it's a government agency. I know that they're affiliated with the government that control who comes through the border.
Yeah.
But you know, this is like, it's madness.
Yeah, it's not the people.
Yes. You know.
We had Rahma Zail on here.
Yeah, she's the badass.
She was very active.
She was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we saw all of this video.
That reporter's mind. That reporter would change her energy after that video.
I mean, I think she also changed a lot of people in that video. She woke a lot of people up with that, you know, and obviously she didn't do it to go viral, but it going viral was, you know, was very early on, and it was so important.
Super.
It's been super cathartic to see these Western journalists just get their asses handed to them day in and day out.
And switch up.
Yeah.
And then, that's a good part.
Yeah.
Switch up, but
Like it's
sometimes
Piers
it's
Morgan.
fake. Well, no, Piers Morgan switches, and then he like...
I know.
Yeah, he like braces. He's like, oh,
He's coming around. He's finally realizing, okay, maybe they've been feeding me nonsense.
I mean, I say fucking all the time. I'll never believe that he's like, you know, gonna have some sort of like aha moment, but there comes a certain point where you can't continue to hear people, like if you're gonna you know, have any semblance of being a journalist, then you have to start calling people on what is very obvious bullshit.
Otherwise, you're like, what are we talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So good for him for finally at least doing it. I'm not giving him props by any means. Like, fuck you, Piers Morgan. But and you can leave that in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I'm glad to see a shift in you know, in the tone and the way that he was, like, you know, coddling, you know, representatives for the IDF.
Can I ask you a personal question?
No.
Absolutely not.
Of course you get.
I want to come back to Gaza.
Yeah.
When did you first realize that you were Palestinian?
Oh, like, when did I come out? Yeah.
I heard that.
I
Pride Month,
always.
so,
Yeah, exactly. People are always like, have you been openly Palestinian? I'm openly Palestinian. I've always been out of the closet. No, it was for me, you know, I'm half Irish. Shout out Irish.
You guys are Palestinian
yeah,
too.
exactly. Yeah, we're all Palestinian.
All resistance.
So we were taught that we were Palestinian just like I was taught I was Irish.
Yeah.
Like, there was never like an instance of, like, don't tell people that you're Palestinian. So I've said this before, but I think it was actually an aha moment for me when I realized that other people felt uncomfortable saying they were Palestinian, because I had never really had that situation before. And I just didn't really understand it. As I got older and I started understanding what was going on, really, like, you know, being normalized to the conflict, you know, which it's so ridiculous, but, like, you know, and this idea of the Arab-Israeli conflict. As I got older, I was like, oh, I understand now kind of why people are, like, a little standoffish. But yeah, no, I never really had that. And I'm proud. But I understand as well, and this goes back to the generational trauma of why, you know, parents try to keep their children safe in telling them, like, you know, say you're Lebanese or you're Syrian or you're Jordanian, and listen, like, there obviously are Syrians, there obviously are Lebanese people who are, like, ethnically and you know, from these different places. Right. But of course, people were telling their kids not to say it, or they weren't as well, because it is incredibly hard.
Or giving them American names.
Yes, exactly.
You know, thinking that they were
100%. Yeah, I mean, and understandably, and this is what a lot of people have done. We're not the only, you know, ethnic group that have been afraid for people. Like, we're not the only ones who have felt the necessity to kind of assimilate. Like, almost every other, besides, you know, assimilating to whiteness is, like, you know, what a lot of people have been doing for a long time.
Jewish people. Tell us about that.
100%. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one. I mean, like, not using your name, not speaking the language. You're afraid to even speak your own language in your household, so you lose the language. Like, these are like decades and decades of ethnic cleansing. Like, it happens over a slow period of time.
Totally.
So
erasure.
So that's why, like, with this generation, you know, we're gonna start having kids, and, like, I tell this to everybody. It's like, if you do choose to have kids, speak your mother tongue. And at home as much as possible. Teach everything, you know what I mean? Like, learn, go to classes, make a concerted effort. To continue that.
When are we gonna start yours?
I might Duolingo.
He knows one thing. This is Alicia. He knows I want a sandwich.
I did want to go back, and this is very important.
They try to.
Yeah, please.
You're right. So, you know, I think in the diaspora it's so important because they are trying to erase our culture,
100%.
appropriate everything, and pretend like none of it exists. But just on the topic of Gaza and them now having to face the same danger and decision of, do I leave for my own safety and life, or do I stay to stand my ground and maintain my presence in my home? And, you know, back to also how different Palestinians experience it differently. Like, my grandfather on my mom's side was
Okay.
And my grandfather on my dad's side was from Gaza. So they had different experiences where my grandfather had to move from Jaffa as also a child. You know, he remembers the tanks literally rolling through the mountains and announcing, if you don't leave, you know, we'll do the same thing. Essentially, your fate will be the same as the others.
Dear.
And he had to move. Then they moved to Gaza. When they did leave, the borders were closed, and they never, like, my dad went to college in Egypt, and then he could never return.
Yeah.
They closed the border.
Of course.
So that's a different way of doing it than, like, being a tank rolling through your village and telling you to get out. But however way you do it. But now Gaza is experiencing, because Gaza was the last stronghold.
Yeah.
It was the one that wasn't technically occupied for the longest time.
Yeah.
It had some semblance of people being able to stay and stand their ground, and we were the strongest fighters, maybe, and that's why they couldn't. Maybe it's the geographic positioning, whatever. But now they're in a position where they've gotten to us.
Yeah.
And they're doing now to us what they haven't been able to in the past, and it's sad. It took 70 years, but here we are.
Well, give or take, is mostly like 2006. Like my father specifically has said, like, what's happening now in Gaza is like worse
Yeah.
than what happened
Yeah.
in the Nakba. And there, it's like back and forth. Is it worse because we can see all of it?
Right.
Is it worse because it's being live streamed?
Yeah, it's because of the three false
Is it worse
reports.
because of the technology of weaponry?
Yes.
It is because
more people are involved. The technology is crazier. The weapons of
and
mass
also
destruction,
everyone is so condensed.
Right.
I mean, they're using AI to just. It's like
drones.
we're in like Terminator Skynet.
Yeah.
It's right.
And did you guys see the drone that shot the guy that was that old man that was sitting out of the store in the head, just like playing freaking Call of Duty up there?
They did that the other day with like a young girl. They shot her right in the neck using a drone.
That's not an accident.
No, of course not. I mean, it's not an accident like Shireen Abu Akleh wasn't an accident. Like, these are...
Didn't they say that one of her own killed her?
No,
That was the first
They
story.
were saying that it
They were
was
like,
crossfire.
oh,
Initially, they tried saying that. Eventually, even the IDF investigation determined that we can't say for sure it was our bullet, but it probably wasn't.
Yeah, we investigated ourselves, and we found no wrongdoing.
What they do is they first deny and deflect and say it was y'all, and then they do a long investigation, and then 2 years later,
Sounds like-
and be like, yeah, we probably
Anthony Blinken and the other guy. We'll talk to them.
Yeah,
Just make sure they
worse, bro.
He's
Oh,
blinking.
Matt Miller.
Yeah,
Matt Miller.
it's just one of those.
Yeah.
I don't want people dying. Look at me. You think I want people dying?
I mean, it's like saying that, like, yes, we suspect the police of wrongdoing, but we're going to allow the police to investigate whether or not the police have done wrongdoing.
Right.
Like,
Right.
this is just so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But of course, this is what's a problem now is that, like, they've been allowed to get away with this for so long that this is the game plan. It's always been. And everyone has just been like, well, they're having the Israelis investigated, so let's just turn our faces away. Like, and now because of what's happening on the streets and with protests, and they can't, and even with journalists being like, I can't not ask you what's going on with this. Like, I would look like a total ass if I didn't in this press conference ask you whether or not you've heard about this thing that we've been asking you about for the last 6 months. And because we are pressuring them.
Right.
This is, people are constantly saying, like, I'm tired. I mean, listen, I'm tired. I'm tired. Or, like, what are we really accomplishing? And we have moved the needle so much.
They're never. That country is never recovering from this
It's
ever
not-
again. No
it's
one's
not
ever
a
got to leave it
It's
again.
not a possibility.
This is, I might be like, a little bit like overzealous, but I think this is the beginning of the end for them.
Well, I think they know it's the beginning of it.
And that's when a cornered beast is like about to die, they lash out their strongest.
hard.
100%.
And then
Wait, so no peace deal?
Well, it's when we say the end of. I think when we say the end of, I think we're saying the end of their systems of oppression and violence.
We're talking about the end of this government, the end of the way that this.
Remember, we're different.
Yeah, but again, like, I think people need to understand that, like, what's sad about it is that we have to preface that. What we mean is the end to an apartheid state. When there was the end to apartheid South Africa, the reaction shouldn't be like, oh, are all the white people going to die? Of course not.
Yeah.
The people who do not want equality are going to leave. And where do they go? They're going to go to Israel. They're going to convert to Judaism and go to Israel, which, by the way, historically happened.
Yeah.
There were priests who converted to Judaism and moved to Israel, like on their way there.
Escaping.
Literally.
They're gonna go next once this happens.
America. We're the last colonial bastion.
Where did the Nazis go after they escaped Germany? Not only
I
go,
think they didn't really go anywhere.
not only go, but get hired by
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
Japanese and Germans were
Totally.
both hired, and like in NASA and a lot of stuff. So like we're not only taking them in, but we're employing them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, I think it's
Yeah.
important. I mean, you have to preface it in like, I don't know, in this world of like, making sure you know that, like, this is what I think free Palestine means, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, I answer that question all the time.
so much, right?
But it's
You shouldn't have to.
that's the thing. It's insanity. I should never have to. But every oppressed people have to educate people on their oppression. Every oppressed people have to explain to people what it means when they're asking for freedom and liberty. I mean, listen, obviously, people were really afraid of Emancipation Proclamation, which did not free slaves, but any type of, movement towards freeing slaves, because they were like, they're going to come back and kill us all because what we've done to them. And we are not saying that. What we're saying is give us equality, a representative government, the ability to move and to use our own resources, the right of return, which inevitably is probably going to, fuck up your demographic majority.
Yeah.
But
Right.
that's what we're looking for is like, listen, we're also saying like, if you want to bring in, another 100,000 people in too, okay, great. Like, we're also going to do that. And like, I want the ability to own a home there and also be able to.
Okay with everyone having.
Yes, they have the right. That's why if you go to these beautiful historic cities in Palestine, like I went to Suffolk where my father would have lived, there are literally mosques and churches and synagogues all next to each other. Obviously, the mosques and the churches are have now been turned into hotels and nightclubs and whatever. Well, not nightclubs. This is a very Orthodox Jewish city now, which makes it very eerie because when you're walking around, everyone's speaking English because they only speak Yiddish and English. They don't speak Hebrew. But there's still some really beautiful Palestinian families that have, strongholds and that have stayed there. But I digress. The idea is that, this is our history.
Yeah. I think it's very difficult to, in this time, maintain this optimistic position, but it's so important for to define what it means for peace, because it is a position of abundance you're bringing up. It's like there is enough land, there is enough resources. We don't have to kill each other for it. In fact, there was a time when we didn't.
Yeah.
We can coexist. We want to coexist, but take your foot off my neck first so we can.
But can you coexist?
Well, we want to coexist with people who want to exist, want us to
Right.
exist.
Would you ask?
Only one
You
thing
can't
share.
coexist.
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous. It's in a lot of ways, I agree with everything that you said.
Yeah.
But also, there's so many steps before that.
100%.
And I think that's the thing. People are like, coexist with all the little symbols, put a bumper sticker on. And why don't you just want peace? I get that every freaking day in my
Would you ask a Jewish person to coexist with a Nazi?
Yeah,
You're not.
but I
You can't.
think the idea is it's deeper than that. There are so many more steps before peace is a possibility. Like justice and liberation and, you can't just say to a person, be peaceful, because to an occupied person, to an oppressed person, peace is extremely violent. If I were, look at what happened in the Great March of Return, 2018, 2019. It was a peaceful protest that happened. And all of these things these
peaceful protests, they don't work.
and over 200 people were murdered by the IDF during a peaceful protest.
Sniped at the fence.
Exactly.
That's the thing about this, and Salal says this a lot. We're not the same, and we're not doing it. But we have to. We've had some. Michael Scherzer was on, and he said, the only language that an occupier knows is violence. So right now, that's the only thing that's gonna get them out. I might be being a little extreme.
No.
I like you have to fight fight fire with fire, and stand up for yourself.
I
Like
mean-
we can only smile so much. Like, what do you expect us? You're gonna smile as we get killed?
No, you can't
You know what I
ask nicely for your liberation.
Right.
No one, you can't just be like, please, please,
Yeah, as they shoot you in the head.
please. Yeah, like,
In fact, you can't ask for your liberation.
Yes.
You must obtain it.
Yes.
Yourself, and if that's by force, it's by force.
like name me a place that was occupied and then regained their liberation and their freedom that didn't do it by force. If you can do that, I'll give you every dollar in my bank account. It's not a possibility. It's not a reality. And it's not as though, you can't do peaceful protests don't happen in conjunction with the necessity of violence.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the peace is always met with violence. So, I don't see why people are acting like it's so shocking that there is a response of violence, because, as was said, violence begets violence begets violence.
Yeah.
It's just, it's an ongoing cycle until someone says stop.
Yeah.
And truly that someone could have been the United States many years ago, but it also could have been the United States on October 8th.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Or today.
Well,
Or
you know,
October
I mean,
6th.
the U.S. didn't interject in World War II until Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
So they were like,
well, we are,
and then yeah,
because we also, continued a horrific war in Vietnam that went, almost a decade. So,
yeah. All right, we got a 40-minute.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's move on.
Again, I could talk forever.
I want to start going through these.
Pivot.
But, yeah, I just want to clarify my position too. Is of course we must defend ourselves. Of course.
No, I know.
Resist it with by any means necessary. That's why I prefaced it by saying that it's a difficult position to maintain, right?
Oh,
now.
100%.
But to have that prospect of ultimately our goal is, once everything is handled and dealt with, to have a coexistence, not to maintain our integrity.
No, of course.
Grandfather's kindness, but not but that be taken for weakness.
I was just saying
Yeah,
that,
no,
it's super important that, we don't fall into that trap.
100%.
Yeah.
But I do have an example of a conquest. It's the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he took back Mecca. He did it from a position of power, but he did so without shedding a single drop.
Oh, that's beautiful. No, really.
Well, but
That's why it's better than us.
Yeah.
exactly. But we strive.
I should have said in modern history.
Yeah. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, yes, we're boycotting is huge right now, and it's something so important to our movement and divesting our spending. But what is also in parallel, the next thing that has to happen is we have to direct our money to support ourselves and each other in our community. So can you speak to the importance of keeping our support?
Yeah. I mean, I think something that I say often is, boycott, divest, sanction, but also invest. Invest in Palestinians, invest in what a free Palestine is going to look like. And that means Palestinian success.
Yes.
And, abundance. And we deserve to thrive. Listen, the reality is we in this world live in a capitalistic hellscape. We don't have a choice but to monetarily, become in a position of power. That's the reality.
Yeah.
If you, when you're taking money away, also look at where you're investing your money. And just because it's not on the boycott list doesn't mean that there isn't necessarily a reason that you should do it. What you should be doing, and what I thought was such a beautiful result of, BLM was this push towards investing your money in Black-owned businesses. And I think that investing in Palestinian-owned businesses and businesses that are looking to what the future is going to look like, that's one of the reasons why, we started Watermelon Pictures, is because the necessity for changing the narrative, but also the future of that change narrative? Where do people go when to make these films while we're trying to fix it?
Right.
But also, where do people put their creativity once we have our freedom?
And it's not every single video or every single movie is not going to be about like we want rom-coms, we want action movies, we want all the stuff. But
Is that what you're producing? Like a lot of scripted stuff?
I mean,
and documentaries?
right now our focus is to take these films that never really saw the light of day. I mean, that maybe had been released or, limited or self-released or, a lot of these films.
Film festival.
Yeah.
Or like,
a lot of them, they were taken.
Yeah.
They were,
someone bought it.
and then they buried it.
100%.
So,
Ooh, that's it.
and that's the truth. That there's a lot of predatory distributors out there that were like, oh, we'll take your Palestinian film. We'll buy the rights for it for 10 years. And these filmmakers are like, ooh, I'm so excited. It's finally going to get out there. They're getting paid. And then they just bury it, which they can do.
shelve it.
Exactly.
It's like how record labels do with artists.
100%.
Like Zionist filmmakers to Palestine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you
super
though,
important.
that a huge hot topic in this same vein is that look, people succeed, like, people get more followers, people get richer, people get just like all around more success off the back of a genocide. That is a hot button topic, but also like what I would say is that, if an Arab person is succeeding, like by all means, if they don't have any nefarious, ulterior motives. I just want to get to like
Positioning when it comes to ourselves, because I don't think I think we should assume that anyone within our community is for the best interest of our community, and success with our community is success for everybody.
I want to get your take.
Yeah, I mean, I think look at what the person is doing.
Right.
Like, do they stand on the same morals and values? Are they speaking out, or does it look like they're like, hey, buy my shit, and they're, you know what I mean? Because the reality is like, I get that all the time. Like, I started a Watermelon Pictures. Amazing. People, people are saying like, what are you doing? Like, do you like...
You're doing something that should have already existed.
Well, that's the thing. I wish that it existed before me. I wish I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I wish Hamza and Badia and I didn't... And all the other amazing people.
The team.
Yeah, the best guys in the world, and everyone else on the team are phenomenal. But I wish that they didn't have to come up with this idea. I wish that it had been around for a long time, but the reality is it isn't. And when is it going to be okay to do this? It's never going to be. And we're not a charity case. Yeah. Palestinians have the ability and the talent and the intellect and the strength to do anything we want to do. Yeah. However, the reality is we're under a brutal military occupation and we're undergoing a genocide. Right. In the last 76 years, there was never a good time to start a Palestinian-led business. Right. Like, it's always going to be people profiting off of something. But the reality is, why is it okay during, to start any business at any time?
No, I understand. I really despise that cynical viewpoint on ourselves and amongst each other, because I just don't think it's beneficial. And it's like, would you, in your example for Watermelon Pictures, would y'all rather we didn't tell our stories, or you guys didn't make an amazing film about our stories? No, of course.
Or do you want someone else to be telling our stories? Because they have been, by the way. And they've been telling our stories for a long time. And the way that they've framed us is as terrorists and cab drivers. We haven't been portrayed in a correct light.
So Watermelon Pictures is like the proverbial putting your foot down. You're like, enough is enough.
Yes.
This is it. This is everybody.
If you've been in Hollywood, you know how that goes. Framing getting all those roles cast as the typical, would you not like to be cast for a movie for Watermelon or something like that?
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I have some projects in mind.
I see what's going on here.
I don't know.
This is just one long pitch.
I'm gonna pitch you a show right now.
No, seriously, because you've been the target of that, stereotypical casting.
Oh yeah, no, I've during when I got to LA, it was like every role was like, Allahu Akbar, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
And like it kind of got better. Like you think there's like one good guy, and then it's part of the evolution of it. And you know, seeing like Rami and Mo, that was great in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, 10
This
years.
is the necessary next step.
Exactly. It's all about the steps and moving forward.
Yeah.
And you know that representation. How do you feel about Mo? Seeing the show Mo, when you saw that, you were like,
I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I mean, I think first of all, Mo Amer is awesome. And I, you know, seen his comedy shows, hilarious. But that show, like, I think I cried like during like the entire time during every episode, even in the funny parts. I was like, you know, crying and laughing and crying because representation is super important.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to see people succeed that look like you or talk like you or from your community.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. That's what, like, kind of hurts me about this idea that we're not allowed to become successful. It's not just about representation.
We must become successful.
Yes. Yeah, because representation is not just about showing Palestinians on screen. You know, that could be you know, I could put out 500 documentaries a day about what's happened over the last 76 years.
Yeah.
Representation is also about showing people what the possibility is for Palestinians. And that's like, you know, you guys having this podcast, it's about like, you know, as a Palestinian, making a speech in front of 400,000 people. It's about having a business as a woman, as a Palestinian woman, having a business that's successful.
Yes.
Those are the types of things that allow people to see hope and future. Yeah.
100%.
That we're not going to have to live the way that we've been forced to live.
Yes.
And we all know how successful, and despite occupation, look at how many doctors there are in Gaza. Like, that also.
And Palestinians are outside of Gaza and go to Gaza as doctors.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yeah.
the whole diaspora community.
Yes, I mean, we're an educated, beautiful, talented community, but we also deserve success.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to look no further than your own family for an example of when this success happens, it helps everybody. It helps the rest of the community. It brings more people into success and more people into prosperity. And I do think I'm really excited about how Watermelon Pictures is going to transform the landscape of Palestinian entertainment and Arab industry in general. Okay, so what about like some of the companies that are on the other side of this, the negative guys? Like, did you see that Zara campaign? How tone deaf, how crazy was that?
Oh, with the white, what was the, it was
gauze?
with the gauze around it? Oh yeah, because that was so long. I mean, there's so many things that have happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, how do you remember that?
So crazy to me. It was just such a visceral, like, they're literally holding up what appears to be the same as the Palestinian babies.
Or like that other Armenian family that is big. That,
those people?
Those people, they, you know, they've had
She dressed her kids in
I know.
literally like soccer outfits, sticking like coming through war in Gaza.
And you see when she was on live with Northwest.
No.
And
I'm like, no, sorry, haven't seen that.
She was on
Of
live.
course you've seen
I don't know,
that.
she was on live with,
clip.
I saw like clip. I wasn't watching it live, but I saw a clip of everyone was posting. Everyone was like posting the Palestinian flag in the live, and she's like, "What flag is that?" And Kim goes, "It's Brazil."
There's no Brazilian flag in sight. Straight Palestinian Palestine.
Well, I mean, she may have thought that was the Brazilian flag.
So at Watermelon Pictures, when's the Hadid reality show coming episode?
That, I don't think we're ever going to get a Hadid reality show.
See, I would watch that.
Maybe a BTS of Watermelon Pictures Productions.
I mean, that would be fun.
That would be real.
Yeah.
You're barely like when we had asked about your dad coming in, and you're like, no, we're not.
I love my father, but no, you guys.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, it would be funny. I mean, listen, I think it would be fun, but yeah, that's not going.
We Anwar here, we
Yeah, yeah, that's not going. And we've been offered a lot of times, but we like our privacy.
I love that.
And I think we deserve it.
I dislike reality TV because it's so fake to me. Like, I don't understand if you're acting, if you're being yourself, and I hate that I can't tell which one it is. It's like, either give me a movie or be yourself. It's like, but I feel like,
For me, it's a guilty pleasure.
okay.
Yeah.
I know a lot of girls like it. So not to be sexist.
Wait.
Toxic masculinity.
Come on. I watched The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
I watched The Bachelor one season. It was the Sports Olympics one, so there's some sport.
The thing about like The Bachelor is like it's a docu-series.
I see.
It's more than a documentary. So
Yeah.
I mean, more than a reality TV show.
It's like semi-scripted.
Well, no, it's a docu-series in that, yeah, of course there's scripted things, but it's more about documenting what's going on with their like what's happening. Obviously, we think like they're going to go on dates, they're whatever, but it's a little bit more about like the dynamic of where the people are, or whatever, than it's necessarily scripted.
Right.
Reality TV shows, like, yeah, I mean, by and large, some of the biggest ones are scripted. Like, there's an arc.
Yeah.
You know, hey, you're going to go to lunch here. You're going to talk about this because that's going to lead into that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know if we'll ever get it, but
You're not getting
I would enjoy seeing the real.
I'll say it here for the first time. You will not be getting a reality TV show.
You heard it here first. All right. It's all good. So I don't know. I'm not sure if you're. I don't know if you're religious or believing God or not. Whether you want to share that, it's like to you.
No, it's fine. I'm not religious. I'm not practicing any religion. I'm agnostic. I would say I'm agnostic.
Was the best thing in LA to say is, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
No, I wouldn't say that because I feel like it's trite. But I'm agnostic.
Yeah.
I'm super thankful for the religions, both of them, that I was exposed to as a child. I feel close to people who are, and I think that it's beautiful. But myself, I'm not. And I think I've talked about it before, so it's really not a big deal.
I mean, you're growing up with, two different religions. Probably you're like, well, there's a God, like.
Yeah, I mean, it made
that's like
me
the
look
common
into
denominator.
everything. It made me interested in religion. It made me, interested in all of these things. I mean, the two of the major religions that are, from Palestine are my religions, Christianity and Islam. Yeah. And I just think, there's something very beautiful about it, obviously. And I love the faith that comes along with it. And I have the utmost respect for people who are religious. And, obviously I have family members who are very religious. It just wasn't for me. And I think that that's also okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The reason I was actually bringing it up was not necessarily to ask if you believe in God, although it's interesting to know your perspective on it, but it was more, do you believe in the impact of the devil on what we're seeing, or do you think that is a factor in what we're seeing today between like the Zara campaign, like literally parading what seems to be dead children bodies, between Balenciaga sexualizing children, Kim Kardashian and her work in that department. It just seems to me that there's some sort of.
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a hard one for me to answer. I think that might not be the guess for that question.
For sure.
But I think it's an interesting question. I'm just probably not the one who would be able to go off on it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Next question is, do you have one?
So fashion. How'd you get into fashion? What made you want to be a fashion designer? Who's your favorite?
I think we should get...
10 different questions.
Is that a real question?
No. I don't think that is a real question.
Right, so,
no, I'm just saying, I don't think that was it. Was it real a real question?
We just have some priority questions.
Yeah, sure.
So we kind of touched on this earlier, but what do you say? Because obviously you're a public figure, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're ended up successful and everything. But what do you say to people that are in positions in our community that feel that their power isn't necessarily in using their platform to speak up, and that it's better used at different ways? Do you think there's a line where that ends, and do you agree with that sentiment?
Well, I think only you know whether or not you've spoken up. It doesn't have to be necessarily on social media. I think for some people, they don't necessarily use social media. So like I can't say to a person who, has posted twice on Instagram that social media is the place that they need to be talking about Palestine.
Just remind me.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to be talking about Palestine. I think you need to be bringing up the fact that there's a genocide. That can be to your friends, to your family, in social interactions. You need to be, like representing, like a friend of mine has been doing black nails, and one of the reasons why I have black nails, but yeah, exactly. Nice. So I think one of the reasons, he's saying for men specifically to paint their nails black, because that would be, it's a little less normalized, obviously, for men to have black nails. And then why the black nails? Yeah. Because I'm blacking out for Palestine. Right. Like, have conversations, wear conversation starters, support Palestinian businesses, signal to people that you support Palestine, and then have the conversations, educate yourself and the people around you in whatever way only you are going to know. And like, I don't necessarily believe in the shaming. However, I do think there is a necessity for people with large platforms on social media to feel that they are being pushed into a position that they speak.
Right, because there's like it's twofold, right? You're either silent or you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
or you're taking advantage of.
Right.
I mean,
all the AI, like All Eyes on Rafah thing was a huge moment, right? Because everything else was being silenced, but for some reason that one image got seen by over like 30 million people, and you had like really extreme kind of activists saying that, all you're doing is sharing this thing. But on the flip side of that, if you really look at it,
I guess I'm an extreme activist.
Right. And I wanted to get your idea on that, is that maybe that's the first time somebody's seeing that, because everything has been silenced except for that one image, and it's a person that has no idea what's going on. Yeah. It's their first intro into that, so they're I want to see your side of it, and then maybe have a rebuttal on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is, I wasn't upset about the photo. I think it's amazing to see that many people reposting this thing, having a conversation or a conversation starter, at least for people, to know what's going on, or that other people are supporting this, and to feel like in community with people, that there are millions and millions of other people who also feel this way. The other side of that is, one, it was an AI photo.
Right.
So there are, again, millions and millions of actual photos. The other side of that is that people are saying, well, if it was a real photo, it would have been shadow banned. And I agree with that. There's a very high probability that it wouldn't have been seen by as many people if it wasn't an AI photo. My call to action was, great, I'm glad that you reposted that. But let's not do performative activism. Like, don't just virtue signal to people that you support Palestine because you see also a bunch of celebrities and other people reposting this photo. What I would love for you to do is like, hi, welcome to the movement, which welcome. Like, I want everyone to be like, I think people thought I was being condescending when I said that. Like, I posted something and it got a lot of reposts, and what I was saying was like, welcome to the movement. Like, amazing. You've done your first act. If that's your, I even said, if this is the first thing you've ever said about Palestine, you've done your first act.
Yeah.
Don't let this be your only act.
Right.
And to only do it like
with intention.
With intention, exactly. Like, start educating yourself. Meet a Palestinian if you can.
Yeah.
Like, go to a teach-in. Start following Palestinian accounts.
Yeah.
Read up. There's a million things that you can read. There's, news articles and firsthand accounts, and get to know. Go to a protest if you can.
Right.
Donate to help someone get out. Like, there's so many ways that you
Donation is a big.
Yes, you can contribute. Like, huge ways that you can contribute. And so I just wanted people to continue that, instead of that being the one and only way that they show people that they give a shit about Palestine. The reality is, a lot of people posted that, and then I never saw them speak about Palestine again.
Yeah, I think the follow-up question, I don't know.
Yeah.
Into that one too.
The follow-up question to the, like, not doing enough is the kind of attacking your own people in your own circle. I've seen that, happen time and time again. I think it's very like detrimental to the cause. You start attacking people, and have this kind of like civil war between the side, and that's kind of historically how we've been divided. You know what I mean? So I see it as very like counterproductive.
I think it's more holding each other accountable and expecting like the most and the best of each other versus like attacking each other is the right way that I think is.
Well, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Is you want people to call you in.
Yeah.
And to say, what you're saying is not something I necessarily agree with, or, like, can we talk about why you did that or why you said that? That's how you like keep your community accountable. Yeah. The inter-community shaming, and that happens within a lot of liberation movements.
Yeah, right.
People are very protective. We've had to be so insular.
Yeah.
So of course, like, you developed your beliefs on how we're going to get to freedom. If you see someone not doing it the way that you would do it, it's very easy to go, they're doing it wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
I try really hard not to be like, they're doing it wrong. What I'm saying is like, same team.
Yeah.
Like, we're all trying to get to freedom.
Yeah.
Whether or not the freedom that I want is the way that you want it, right now, we don't have the luxury of...
we need all hands on deck.
We need all hands on deck.
We haven't even gotten to that part yet.
Like, let us get some freedom, and then we can decide what it looks like when we get there.
Because resistance... resistance...
Like,
many faces.
Yes.
So.
And, like, we don't have to agree. We don't need to agree on, like, what the government's going to look like, but what we do have to agree on is that we're all moving towards the same thing, which is freedom. And then after we're free, we can fight all the time over what that looks like, how it's represented, because we're going to have the sovereignty and the freedom to do that. So, like, let's save the infighting for later. Like, let's stop attacking each other on our way to freedom.
Yeah.
Like, can we all just get along?
It's hard enough right now. So hold on. And real quick, because I feel the transition come.
No transition.
While you're advising people, I just wanted one more brief piece of advice to the people with platforms that are afraid to speak up. What would you say?
Of course it's scary. If it wasn't scary, they've made it scary on purpose. Like, if it wasn't scary, we'd be free already.
Yeah.
But the reality is we need all the voices together. And this is not just about a free Palestine. This is collective and universal freedom.
Yes.
This is about your freedom.
Yes.
And so I think people need to realize that, like, it's one of those things where, like, fine, you didn't speak about Palestine, but at some point it's going to be coming for you or a part of your identity and personality and the freedom for you to express that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so whether or not it's religion or your sexuality or the color of your skin or, your ability to freely express your political stance, whatever that is, at some point, if we don't stand up against fascism and, occupation and the lack of liberty, they're going to be coming for something about you.
Okay. You were bringing up sexuality. Could you tell me about pinkwashing, since it's
That's it.
one?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Pinkwashing is so
What is
horrible and disgusting. Okay.
I don't know.
I love when you play dumb.
Wait, what do you mean?
It's one of my favorites.
Oh, okay, so you caught on.
Honestly, we're not sure if it is.
It's part of it.
I know.
I don't know.
I think it's like kind of a cute way to get things in.
Yeah.
So pinkwashing is actually a term that was coined by a Jewish woman.
Oh, okay.
In how countries, specifically, I think her definition was to Israel, how they use their love and protection, supposed, of the LGBTQIA community in order to wash over the acts that they've done, including occupation and subjugation of Palestinians. So it's like when you see these IDF soldiers holding the pride flag in Gaza behind, a tank and destruction. Your pride flag is not covering up the fact that you're committing a genocide. When you do that, that's called pinkwashing. It's this idea that we support gay people and therefore we are good. You can't talk about whether or not we're not good because of what we do towards this other
Wear that.
community.
If you wore that in Gaza, you'd be thrown off a roof or something like that.
It's ridiculous to say that there aren't gay people that are being murdered during this genocide is ridiculous. It's not like they can't come in and been like, are you gay? You're safe now. But as well, it's important to point out, gay marriage isn't legal in Israel.
Interracial marriage isn't illegal.
It's incredibly hard for a Jewish person to marry someone of another faith or nationality or race.
Gay marriage is illegal in Israel.
No, it's not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, of course, they have a huge gay pride parade, so obviously they support,
They were the only democracy.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's insanity because people, are like, oh, well, they say that they support, the LGBTQIA community. They have a huge pride parade. That's like saying that the entirety of America supports the LGBTQIA community because, there's a huge pride parade in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Right.
Like, that's not true.
Yeah.
And that's not true there either. So we can't just blanket statement things in order to wash over the atrocities of a state. That's also like saying that there is gay marriage in the United States and that the United States has never committed a war crime.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I know of.
There goes playing dumb Gaza.
What happened in Iraq? Why did we go there?
Weapons of mass destruction.
And then on Pinkwatcher, while we're still there, so basically what I'm thinking is it's like separating the fact that Israel supposedly supports the LGBTQ community from the real atrocities they're doing against us, and not letting that justify them killing us because we support these people.
I mean, I think it's ridiculous that we have to say, just because you support gay pride doesn't mean you can't do a genocide. It's pretty obvious.
100%.
It doesn't matter what you support. You can't just kill people indiscriminately. Yeah, exactly.
I guess my question is along with the same logic, would you say that there's benefit also to separate, putting a distinction between the oppression of these different groups as well? Like, for example, I personally am not as comfortable equating the struggle to where it's like we're going through the same.
Well, no one's struggle is the same.
Yeah.
Not a single person's struggle is the same. Not a single oppressed person or people's struggle is the same. However, the equation of I'm oppressed and you're oppressed, and therefore we can be, that doesn't always work. But the truth is that in this instance, we're all looking for freedom.
We need all the help we can.
Yeah, we're all, and by the way, all oppressed groups are being oppressed because they've been made to be considered minorities.
Yeah.
But when we are all together, we are the majority. And so it is super important that we do find the solidarity in our movements. And intersectional movements are important. And to say, I understand what you're saying, basically, there's no equation. There's no equation, what's happening right now in Sudan or Tigray, what's been happening to Tigray, it's been happening for so long in silence. So we can't equate our struggles. What we can do is hold hands and try to fight for all of our freedom together. And so in that way, I feel like we are the same, but our struggles are different.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So lastly, let's wrap it up with this.
No.
Here we go.
So basically,
I feel like a total ass.
yeah, we have 15.
Let me get one more out.
I don't know if I have any good questions.
All right, then we can't wait.
Just think about it.
All right.
Oh, there's a question here.
Okay.
I don't know who wrote it. Is Bella single?
Asking for a friend.
For a friend,
Bella who?
No.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
None of us are single. Actually, my older sister is.
All right.
Probably not her, but I think she's a little bit older than you. You're into that?
I'm not ageist.
Ages.
Take what I can get.
You used your only question on that, huh?
Yeah, that's what you had to ask me.
No, it's just
Take
like
a shot when you
sometimes
Real reputable podcast.
I have to play dumb, okay?
Yeah.
They can't know I'm smart. They won't fall for it anymore.
It's okay. No one knows you're smart.
What else about it? All right.
Yeah, right?
My mom said I was.
Yeah.
Were you guys pretty close, like as a family? Like,
Yeah, we're super incredibly close. Yeah, I think as a family, we're very close. Considering, that we have two different moms.
Yeah.
My older sister and I, and then Gigi, Bella, and Anwar. We have different mothers, obviously the same father.
Yeah.
We were raised as one family. We don't consider each other like half siblings.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we're very, very close.
You have to be super close because of how much of a spectacle people make out your family to be, basically. Everybody's always in the limelight. Everything is everything's under
the government is tweeting to them and stuff. Chill out.
I mean, people love us and love to hate us, but listen, it's beautiful in a lot of ways that the platform that we have has allowed us to very, like I said, very openly say we're Palestinian, and
How dare you?
yeah, I know, right? Yeah. But just saying that is an act of resistance.
losing jobs, losing
Yeah.
pay.
Existence is resistance.
Existence is resistance.
Is your father to credit for you guys' closeness as a family?
I would like to credit our mothers.
Yeah.
I would like, and not that my father isn't, because he always had, he's one of 8 siblings. He's used to big family. He always wanted us to be together. But I think my mom is just such a beautiful, amazing human. She was in the West Bank teaching at a school on October 7th, and she's Irish American. She has known this. She hasn't been married to my dad for 30 years. So she's
That's a good way to transition, because you said your dad's from a big family.
Yeah.
You're from a pretty big family too. Your dad and your mother and the moms decided to keep procreating, right? That's what they wanted.
I mean, they decided to keep procreating with my dad.
Right. Yeah. So we've had these conversations where again, this next generation is kind of scared of having kids, because they're what am I gonna bring my kid into?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but having those kids and continuing our people is a form of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, exactly. So, we have a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
If your dad decided and your mom decided not to do what they did to have you guys, you wouldn't exist. And then we have the next generation at Palestinian Hustle.
Yeah.
Dad-daughter combo.
I know, it's so amazing.
And she's not even just a helper. She's he specifically a Samer. One of the co-owners.
Yeah.
She's in her teens.
Oh.
Yeah. So
cute.
So she's at the same level as him. He always says that they're co-owners.
Yeah, of
they're
course
not
they are.
she's just the helper. So it's an amazing, company that we're so proud to represent.
Yeah.
They even made personalized cards.
Oh, so cute.
With their own, stamp. We have our
Nice.
names on here. The
I
wings.
love
This is
that.
awesome. This is so usually get.
Yeah. So
Right?
they actually even have a package specifically for you. So here, Christmas came early.
This is so
So
awesome.
I think we're gonna just quickly.
I open it?
Yeah, we all
All put our things.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna.
You need some help?
Yeah, I do.
embodied.
I don't want to. So,
Oh, I got it. I got it.
he's man.
Yeah, don't mansplain how to open it.
Okay, so this is what you do.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, look how cute.
We got all personalized notes. This is real ink. Not AI.
So sweet.
Oh, wow.
Oh my god, mine has more than yours. Cool.
Yeah. Of course, the VIP guys.
Oh my god, look at this. Oh, I love stickers. I have I have Palestine stickers on it. Oh my god, look at this. This is a real serious letter.
Right.
It's awesome.
So we could.
What is her name? Bella? The daughter?
I believe it is.
So, yeah.
There's a huge connection there too, right?
Thank you, Palestinian hustle. That's so sweet.
Spread love, help others, and always hustle.
I mean, I think that's what we've been talking about. It's like, allow Palestinians to hustle.
Yeah.
So
That's a real hard.
they do have something that we're gonna say.
Should we read our letters?
We can. I'm gonna run through this.
Okay, what are we?
We're showing off the clothes, though.
Yeah. I'm gonna say.
Okay, you say it while I'm showing off the clothes.
All right, so Palestinian Hustle, a Palestinian-owned lifestyle brand, was born from a desire to connect deeply with Palestinian culture and traditions. Founded by a father-daughter team, it began as a teaching lesson for Bella, the daughter, to appreciate her heritage. Despite facing challenges like a cancer diagnosis, which, side note, Sander is a cancer survivor, he's a remission. So it's a testament to his resilience.
Yeah.
As a Palestinian. Cancer diagnosis, the brand persevered, supported by a community dedicated to spreading love, helping others, and always hustling. Through collaborations and projects, they formed bonds with Gaza because they employ people directly from Gaza. A lot of their artwork is from Palestinian artists from Palestine.
That's awesome.
So,
Next level.
you're right. Contributing to causes like art and music classes for children in refugee camps. Emphasizing quality over quantity, they treat customers as family, as you can see the cards. With personal touches like handwritten cards in every package. Committed to inclusivity and acceptance, they believe in the power of small acts to make a big impact, with the percentage of sales aiding refugees in Palestine. Palestinian hustle, spreading love, helping others, and always hustling.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope to get, you know what, I want to get them to the place where they really they have so many orders, they don't have the time to do that. These cards. Let's get them there. Let's get them there to the point where they can do the cards.
Yeah, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, this is amazing.
great shirt,
Thank you,
by the way.
Palestinian hustle.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Bella. Incredible
This
work.
is adorable.
Oh, wow.
They-
Look at that.
Oh, you should see the story of that.
Okay.
I mean, if you look on their Instagram,
Okay.
it's literally like a draw. Like he has the actual artwork. I think it's the drawing of his daughter drew it. His daughter drew it back in the day, and he kept it, and then now he printed it. So, yeah.
Thank you
it's an amazing-
guys. Thank you. Thank you for introducing me to Palestinian hustle because I'm a new fan.
There you go.
Yeah, I've heard about it before, but I never got any of their stuff, and now I'm really excited.
Don't know more of it.
Yeah, I know.
As everyone watching, check their website out and make sure you support them. Again, it's all about supporting each other. And you're going to buy a shirt anyway. You might as well
Yes.
do one with the
Exactly. Support Palestinian hustle.
Yeah.
Many more ways than one.
Support Palestinian brands, support Arab
Yeah.
brands, and
I think that's Palestinian hustle.
Exactly. Support Palestinian success. We're many generations.
is that some?
They had said this is awesome. They had said Zionists had said that the old will die and the young will forget, and
Yeah.
Palestinian hustle is a good example of how that's not going to happen. So awesome, very excited. Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming in. Amazing episode. We'd love to have you any other time.
Yeah.
And best of luck on everything with Watermelon Pictures. We can't wait to see
You finally got me here. Finally did it. Been chasing you around.
I always gotta make sure the audio is good and the video is good.
Yeah.
Well, last time I saw you, I wasn't too thirsty.
I know. Yeah. Hey, and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
I had to buy a plant to get the interview.
We didn't even talk about the fact that I almost got arrested.
Oh, we got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah, I went. We blocked off the Biden fundraiser. We blocked the entrances so that the assholes who were supporting Biden couldn't get in. Biden's genocide supporters, and we had police in riot gear loading their weapons, their rubber bullets, which are real.
lethal.
Yeah, can take your eye out. And I was face to face with those guys. It was really scary. But we go there to get arrested. But when you're using your body and your voice as an act of resistance.
You're like taller than most of them.
Yeah, I know.
Are you the tallest indeed?
I am the tallest. No, my brother is a little bit taller than
That's
me.
pretty tall.
Yeah, I'm 6 foot. He's taller.
You're taller than 6 foot.
No, I'm 6 foot.
6 foot is tall.
Yeah. He's just saying that because
He's 5'8". Yeah.
No, or you wear boots.
Yeah, this is a very there's 2020. You're like, they're like, oh no, it's only 5'11" away from each person. Yeah, no, it was awesome. I did it like in a action in conjunction with JVP and a lot of other organizations. So yeah, it was awesome. Didn't get arrested, didn't have anyone harmed, which I appreciate, but I also think that speaks to how scared Biden is of Palestinians being the front page. Yeah, if we had been arrested, if they had hurt us, that would be the national news, not him raising a bunch of money. So it was awesome, and I will do it again and again and again.
Hope to see you in the back of a cop car. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
I look cute with my hands behind
I'll be
my
there
back.
with you. For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yeah, I
guys.
appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
I would love to have you back anytime. So.
I will.
All right.
Thanks.